أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وإمامنا وقدوتنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to another short talk of Ramadan. Inshallah, tonight I want to share with you some stories about great mothers, truly amazing mothers, and what they have done. And these are mothers of some great people. And we know the people. When I mention their names, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about, but you may not know much about their mothers. The first person I want to talk to you about is the mother of Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i was a great scholar of Islam, and the Shafi'i school of thought is attributed to him. Something amazing happened with Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. His father died when he was only 2 years old. He was just 2. And his mother, he was born in Gaza, which is in Palestine, and the father died when he was only 2 years old. And his mother decided that she wanted her son, who's only 2 years old, to grow up in an environment of learning. So she decided to move with her son to Mecca. So she uplifted her family, she and her son. She never remarried, this is by herself with her son, and she went to Mecca so that the Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i would learn from the great scholars of Mecca. He memorized Quran by the time he was 7 years old. Subhanallah. And he was allowed to give fatwa. So people ask questions, he would answer them, and he was still under the age of 20. That's how knowledgeable he was. He talks about his mother. He says that my mother insisted on me learning. We were very poor, so there was no money. It's not like they were wealthy people who could pay a lot of tuition. No, there was no money. Said there was no money, but she wanted me to learn and to memorize the Quran. So she made a deal with the teacher. They used to have something, they call it a kutab, where people go and learn how to read Quran, and there will be a teacher. So she convinced the teacher to let Al-Imam al-Shafi'i attend for free. But he would pay by substituting for the teacher. So whenever the teacher had to take a break or couldn't or missed one day, then Al-Imam al-Shafi'i would stand up and he would be the teacher. He would be in charge. And he would get no money for that. So that was his way of paying for attendance. And Imam Shafi'i said that after he memorized Quran, he was still a young child, his mother would take him to the masjid to sit with the scholars. He said, but we were so poor that I could not buy anything to write on. There was no paper or anything like that. He couldn't afford it. He said, so I simply memorized it. Subhanallah. Sometimes when you're in a bad situation, when you're in a bind, the child begins to find other ways to learn. He said, I simply memorized it. He said, sometimes I would find a piece of bone or something that I could write on, and I would write certain key elements. But he didn't have notebooks and papers that he could write on because the family was extremely poor. Subhanallah. And then as he grew older, he wanted to leave Mecca and go to other cities to learn from other scholars. And there was no money. So his mother did something amazing. They had a house, a small house. So she actually put her house up for collateral and took a loan. She took a loan from somebody. And the loan, we have even the amount, 16 dinars. Dinars was made from gold at the time. She had 16 dinars, which she put up the house and as a ransom, and she took the 16 dinars and she gave it to Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. And he was to use that to travel so that he can learn about Islam. What a wonderful and amazing mother this is. A mother who sacrificed for the sake of her son, and the fruits of her labor were Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the great scholars of Islam. Tonight I want to talk to you about another amazing mother, a woman by the name of Safiya al-Shaybaniya. Most of you would have no idea who I'm talking about. She is the mother of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the great scholar of the Hanbali school of thought. Subhanallah. Again, a very amazing situation. Safiya Shaybaniya. Al-Imam Ahmad talks about his mother. He said, my mother taught me to memorize the Quran. His mother taught him to memorize the Quran. And I finished it by the time I was 10 years old. Subhanallah. He talks about his mother. He said, my mother used to wake me up before Fajr. Before Fajr. And she would warm up the water for me so that I can do wudu during the cold nights of Baghdad. Baghdad in current day Iraq is where he lived. And she would then choose my clothes and make sure I dressed up. And then she would cover herself and she would walk with me to the masjid. He was so young, she was afraid in the middle of the night to have him walk to the masjid. And he said our house was far away from the masjid and there were no lights in the street. Subhanallah. Because they didn't have that much money, so they had to live far away from the center of the town, which is where the masjid was. So she would walk with him in the middle of the night to make sure that he got to the masjid to pray Fajr. And he was still a young kid. Can you imagine that dedication? Can you imagine that mother? She warmed the water for him. She picked out the clothes for him. She made sure she woke him up in time. Then she herself got dressed and she walked him from their house all the way to the masjid, only so he can pray Fajr in the masjid. I wish we had that dedication to our children, to make the environment right for them, to be better Muslims, to have a better connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By the way, Al-Imam Ahmad was an orphan. His father died while his mother was pregnant. Subhanallah, he never met his father. So his father passed away while the mother was still pregnant with Al-Imam Ahmad. She never remarried. She dedicated her life to the education of her son Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He would say of his mother that later on, as he grew a little older, she continued to warm the water for him to do wudu. She would continue to choose his clothing. And then she would wait until she saw the police, because they had police patrolling the neighborhoods. When she saw the police come by their house, she would then let him go and walk with the police until he reached the masjid. And that way she felt comfortable that her son was safe. Subhanallah. Truly an amazing thing. Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. His mother, Safiya, people described her as someone who fasted frequently and who prayed at night frequently. And she would wake up her son to pray with her at night. When he was 16 years old, his mother encouraged him to travel. She said, you need to leave Baghdad and go to Medina and Mecca and learn from other scholars. She encouraged him to travel. Many times, mothers want to hold on to their sons. Oh, I don't want my son to go. I want to keep him by my side. But at age 16, she encouraged him to travel so he can enhance his learning and learn more about Islam. And sure enough, Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal would become a great scholar of Islam. And he is the one who is responsible for the Hanbali madhab in Islam, the Hanbali school of thought. To all the great mothers out there, remember that knowledge doesn't just come from the sky. It requires effort. And it's a team effort. Don't think it's only a matter of telling your son or daughter to read and to learn and to spend the time. But you also have to create the environment that's conducive to their learning. And you might say, well, I don't have all the resources, I'm not wealthy. Well, neither did the mother of Imam Shafi'i or the mother of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. But they used the resources they had available to them. They dedicated themselves to their children so that they can learn and enhance their learning. And sure enough, the sons of both mothers came out to be great scholars of Islam, who until this day we revere and we follow their teachings. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.